That night was a horrible night in Central Park. There were almost 40 teenagers who were roaming the park and beating people up, and I ended up being attacked and beaten, bound, gagged, and raped.
My name is Tommy Springfield.
And I'm better than you!
If you're new here, click that like, share, subscribe, hit the bell, click all so you can get notifications every time I do these type of videos. So, if you look all over the channel, you will see the channel is all over the place. I do all sorts of types of things. But today, I decided to go down the rabbit hole of the Central Park 5. Why? Because for the last few days, it's been a Democratic conventional, and they brought on the Central Park 5, you know, to make Donald Trump look bad and all of that. So I figured, let's look down the rabbit hole. So I looked up everything. I got confession videos. I got videos from the cops. I got videos from everybody. But then I said to myself, that's a lot of work. That's a lot of work. But then I found my good old buddy, Uncle Larry. And Uncle Larry is currently the #1 video on my channel with 1 million+ views. It's the biggest video on my channel to date. So why not let Uncle Larry talk about the Central Park 5? But I have a few questions. You know, they say Donald Trump is racist and it was a racial situation. Did you know the lead cop was black? Did you know that same black lead cop still stands on what he presented to the DA today? Did you know 2 of the 5 were actually seen and arrested at the scene of a crime of beating another teacher damn near to death? Yeah, stop believing the media, but I know you don't know me enough, so let's get into this video.
You probably didn't watch the Emmys. The ratings were...
And I'm sorry, forgot to tell you, I'm 420 friendly over here. If that offends you, I'm sorry, and I hope you can continue to watch. But if not, I appreciate your view thus far.
awful. Well, I watched them so you didn't have to. And here's what happened.
But most importantly, this is for the men that we know as the exonerated 5. It's for Raymond, Yusef, Antron, Kevin, and King Korey Wise. Thank you so much. It's an honor, it's a blessing.
One slight problem. The Central Park 5 were guilty. Of course, that's not the conclusion that Ken Burns reached in his documentary.
But you'd think their spidey sense would go off for 1,000 different reasons, that they didn't know where the crime had taken place. They were in some other place when it did. It was an incredibly bloody crime scene. There's nothing of the crime scene on the boys. There's nothing of the boys on the crime scene. They didn't know each other. They spent all this time in prison not asking for parole. I mean, when they went up for parole, not saying I did it so they could get out earlier. And when and film, I have to say, and Charlie, you know this, is a kind of polygraph. Yes. You read it after a couple of hours. We go in and we let you decide. And you see these were good kids, that they hadn't done it.
And then there's the Ava DuVernay TV miniseries called When They See Us, which makes the same claim. Innocent men railroaded by a racist criminal justice system.
Is my mom here?
It's just us. You and us.
Who you were in the park with?
I don't know names. I just got lost.
Where did you see the lady?
One lady.
The female jogger was severely beaten and raped.
Every black male who was in the park last night is a suspect. I need all of them.
Now, neither Ken Burns nor Ava DuVernay interviewed the lead detective in the case. His name is Eric Reynolds. But I did.
Before we get into that, so, as you know, these young boys, they was charged with rape in the park. And the lady accused, she didn't point out anyone. She can't remember what happened. She could only remember up until 5 o'clock that day, up until, to a couple weeks after. She doesn't remember the incident. She doesn't remember anything. So she never fingered anyone. But let's go further and see why Donald Trump won't change his mind, and he stands 10 toes down on what he said.
Hey, Larry, thank you for having me on.
And because I stopped this is Eric Reynolds, the cop and one of the lead detectives in the case.
I really appreciate the opportunity to talk about this and set the record straight.
Well, you were there that night. Why don't you tell us what happened?
Well, to begin with, I'm listening to Ken Burns, and it's astounding to listen to him fabricate what went on that night. Ken Burns, I could never watch anything that he's produced anymore with any amount of confidence that he's telling the truth, that this is an honest portrayal of what's happened.
Now, Detective, you were there that night. Did you and your partner arrest the people that became the Central Park Five, all 5 of them?
What happened was we were looking for the group of teenagers who were wilding, who were rioting.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, and that's the best way to describe it. They were rioting in the park. We came upon 20 to 30 of them after they had assaulted the teacher, John Laughlin, and beat him so badly that both of his eye sockets were shattered and his skull was cracked. He wasn't even able to identify who it was that beat him because he couldn't see. His head looked like it was dunked in a bucket of blood.
Wow.
We captured 5 of the 30 that we observed because the group, of course, started running when we went to apprehend them.
Mm-hmm.
And 2 of the 5 were Kevin Richardson and Raymond Santana, part of the Central Park 5.
Mm-hmm.
Now, listen to what you heard. Listen to what you just heard. See, the media ain't tell you this. These are the things Trump knows. 2 of the Central Park 5, Kevin Richardson and Raymond Santana, were caught on the scene beating a school teacher nearly to death. Beat him to a bloody pulp. So, there you have your first clue. These guys are not innocent. This is the part of the story they don't talk about. But they thought they had them on the Central Park 5, so they didn't charge them with beating this teacher. They started the Central Park 5. Remember, they were caught first for another crime. So did these 2 tell on the rest of the ones? Did these 2 say the rest of them are there? Let's continue.
And just so that you understand, as we observed the group, we watched.
He watched, the cop watched. And remember, it's 2 cops. Listen.
Raymond Santana with Stephen Lopez leading the group. I could see them turning around and addressing them almost as though they were leading the pack, and as they were walking uptown, up Central Park West.
Mm-hmm.
Once we arrested them, you have to understand something. We arrested them before the jogger was even found. The jogger was still in the ravine. She was by herself in a ditch by a stream, basically dying.
Did you hear what he just said? That's a bombshell. Did you hear what he just said? They were arrested before they even found the victim to the Central Park 5. They were never arrested for the Central Park 5. They were arrested for the first crime of beating the teacher to death. And they were caught by the police. And if you didn't know, you know everybody say, oh, it's racist. So when they say it's racist, you think white cops are running around pinning stuff on black people. This is the lead detective. He is black. He is black. And he is saying with his own eyes, he's seen 2 of the dudes from the Central Park 5 lead a mob and beat a teacher half to death. So, this is why Trump is still standing on what he said. Because he knows these dudes are guilty. But let's watch.
Oh, and did I mention that the lead detective in the case, Eric Reynolds, is black? And what about those alleged civil rights abuses? Detective, as you know, you are accused of forcing the confessions. You're accused of not giving the boys the opportunity to be with their parents, not giving them food and water, not allowing them to use the restroom. Linda Fairstein has been characterized as a racist. And I want to give you an opportunity to address some of these distortions. Were they really denied food, water, bathroom facilities, access to their parents? Linda Fairstein was the lead prosecutor in the case, and she wrote an op-ed piece about this miniseries called When They See Us, in which she said it was full of lies. She said the miniseries portrays the suspects as being held without food, deprived of their parents' company and advice, not even allowed to use a bathroom. Nonsense. If that were true, that would have been brought up at the hearing where they determined the confessions were voluntary. It says that the film suggests the only evidence that they have against the suspects is their forced confessions. Not true. One woman testified that one of them told her he held her down, probably thinking that holding her down meant that he was exonerated from crime. She was wrong. There were bloodstains and dirt on some of the other five, Linda Fairstein said. There were statements made by more than a dozen other kids who participated in the park rampage, fingering the five. And regarding the claim that Mateus Reyes solely was there.
All right. So you heard what he just said. There was other evidence against these guys. Other guys in the park, their black friends, as we know that happen all the time. We stab each other in the back in the hood all the time. Other black dudes told on them. Other witnesses testified against them. There were other pieces of evidence. They had dirt on them. They had blood on them. And people because one dude confessed. She never said one person raped her. She was gang raped by multiple person. So how can one person confess and say, oh, I did it, free 5 guys, when she was raped by a group of maybe 30 men? But one guy confesses, I did it by myself. And yes, because they don't be wanting problems with black people. They know we crash out over the dumbest stuff. We crash out over things that don't even make sense. But there was other evidence, and he's going to speak on the guy who confessed. Let's go.
He said, well, if he said he was solely there and the jury heard that, they probably wouldn't have convicted them regarding raping her or being involved in the rape of her, but they were also involved in attacking and assaulting other people, so the other charges should not have been vacated. The second lead prosecutor, Tim Clements, believes that Mateus Reyes is a complete liar and doesn't believe any of the charges should have been vacated. The lead officer on this case is my guest, retired New York detective Eric Reynolds. He's been on the force about 20 years. Detective,
that's correct.
Detective, again, when you watched the documentary that Ken Burns did, your reaction to that documentary was what?
Oh, it's a complete farce. Ken Burns himself said that he made the documentary for one reason, and that was to force the city to pay the lawsuit, to pay the Central Park 5 money, and that's it. That's why he would not show the city the outtakes from the filming that he did, because he didn't want people to see the contradictions. He didn't want people to see the lies. He didn't want people to see that they were clearly involved in the attack on Patricia Miley, a.k.a. the Central Park jogger. All you have to do is watch the videos. Watch the videos in their entirety. There's a website called CentralPark5JoggerAttackers.com. They have the videos there. Watch them all.
I'm going to stop it there for a moment just to show you what he's talking about. Oh, no, that's not it. There's a freak, is it? Now I ain't got it. And that's how it go. That's how it go. I ain't got it. This is the website he was just talking about, you know. And if you want to stop being lazy and do your own research, like he said, you can watch all the videos here, man. All the confession videos are right here. You can see if they look sleep deprived. You can see if their parents is there. You can see, you know.
Excuse me. The truth about what happened in Central Park on the night of your spotting. Right. Also present in the room right now are Detective Arroyo and Detective Ian from the police department. Before I go any further, just to ask, I'm an assistant district attorney in New York County. I'd like to ask you some questions about what happened in Central Park on the night of April 19th, 1989. Before I ask you about what happened, let me just ask, sir, could you please give your name?
My name is Yusef Salaam.
And what is your relation to this young man here? Your father? Right.
Boom. So as you can see, that's his father. But social media told you these kids are sleep deprived and they didn't eat and their parents wasn't there. That's the father right there of that guy. Let's see this guy.
Silent and to refuse to answer any questions. Do you understand?
Yes.
Anything you say may be used against you in court. Do you understand? You have the right to consult a lawyer now before any questioning and have a lawyer present during any questioning. Do you understand? If you have no lawyer, cannot afford a lawyer will be provided for you now free of charge before any questioning. Do you understand? Having been advised of your rights, are you willing to tell me the truth at this time about what happened in Central Park on the night of April 19th of 1989? Before I go any further, I just want to say there is another gentleman here in the room, the man over here. Who is that man? Okay, what is your name?
Kevin Mitchell.
And sir, could you please just state your name and address?
Paul L. Richardson.
And are you Kevin Richardson's father?
Yes, sir.
So as you can see, that's his father in the room. And I'm not going to go through all the videos, but they there. You can look at them, but just remember, the media told you they were sleep deprived, they didn't eat, they didn't have no parents there. It's all lies. I just showed you some of the lies. Larry Elder is showing you the lies. Let's get back to the video.
Look to see if they're sleep deprived. Look to see if they're deprived of going to the bathroom. Look to see if they get their rights read to them. Their rights are read right.
And as you can see, those are the same guys I just showed you from the same website that you can go do the research. Stop letting main media be your answer to all your questions.
To them at the beginning. Their parents are there. They're not being kept from going to the bathroom or any of the nonsense that you've been fed by Ken Burns, Sarah Burns, and Ava DuVernay.
I also understand, Detective, that the daughter of Ken Burns worked with one of the lawyers filing the lawsuit against the city.
Absolutely. She worked for their attorneys. If you read the book, because I read her book, which is just total nonsense. One of the things she blames their conviction on is the Pan Am Lockerbie 103 bombing. What the hell does that have to do with the Central Park 5? A terrorist bombing of a Pan Am flight over Lockerbie, Scotland. It's patently ridiculous. Another thing she mentions is how she creates this idea that New York City was the South of in the 1980s. It was the 50s segregated Jim Crow South.
Mississippi, yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah,
patently ridiculous. Patently ridiculous. I don't know where she came up with this. I just can't believe how this case has turned.
And remember, to all the people who want to say, oh, it was racist and all the people in New York was racist, remember, this is a black cop, but I know every time we have a black person who becomes successful, every time we have a black person that doesn't agree with the masses of the black. He's a sellout. He did this. He's part of a secret group. He gave up his butt cheeks. They got dirt on them. We always make excuses. First it's the white man holding us back, and then when blacks become successful and say, no, they ain't holding us back, it's you, or they sellouts. We ain't never gonna win. Because everybody in the black community is just excuses after excuses after excuses. But let's get back to the video.
Around, and people believe the lies that they're being fed by Ken and Sarah Burns and by Ava DuVernay.
I'm talking.
And by the way, Linda Fairstein never walked into a precinct and demanded that detectives go and round up every black man in Harlem. I laughed out loud when I heard that. I was like, you've got to be kidding me. And I had to rewind it just to watch Felicity Huffman mouth those words. And I was thinking, oh my God, here's a felon. Felicity Huffman's a convicted felon doing this, portrayal of Linda Fairstein, which is a total farce. He wasn't even in the precinct the first day.
And was there evidence beyond their alleged coerced confessions? Detective, we just got a phone call from someone who says both of us are wrong because of the lack of DNA that links the 5 to the rape of the Central Park jogger. To that, you say what, Detective?
Okay, then watch the videos. Watch the confession videos. All of the defendants say the exact same thing. They were unable to get an erection to perform sexually when they were attacking her. And if you think about it, you've got 20 or 30, 13 and 14-year-olds in the middle of Central Park, in the middle of the night, beating the life out of this woman they don't even know. How can you perform sexually under those conditions? Mm-hmm. Look at the videos. They say it. Each one of them says the same thing. They could not get an erection. And you wouldn't expect them to under those circumstances. Only one person who was with them could. That was Mateus Reyes, the one who raped his mother, who was a serial rapist, who raped, tortured, and murdered a pregnant woman in front of her children. Of course he can complete the act because he's a psychopath.
So, Mateus Reyes is the guy. He, 13 years later, confessed to this. Now, he was part of the group. He was with them. But 13 years later, they ran into each other in prison, and all of a sudden, he felt bad and he wanted to confess to it. But here's the problem. He was gang raped by multiple people, or tried to be gang raped by multiple people, because all the guys claimed they couldn't get an erection. So one person saying they did shouldn't have freed everybody else. Multiple guys humped this lady. But what I do know, in Springfield, there was a case where an uncle was a serial killer and his nephew was charged with killing his baby moms, but in jail they were together, and then all of a sudden the uncle that was a serial killer said he killed the nephew's baby mama, and then the nephew got out of prison or is getting out of prison. So it's not far-fetched for guys to run into each other in jail and help each other out.
Because he's disinhibited. He doesn't have a conscience. He doesn't have the ability to feel any type of compassion or any type of remorse for anything that he does.
And you can find his confession on the internet. I actually do got that too. You know what I'm saying? But you know me, I have problems with finding stuff. I got it over here. See, that's his whole confession. That's him right there. So you can go on the internet, but it's an hour long. He full of shit. He don't really remember shit. But so just to show you, stop believing the main media. Get on the internet. Google stuff. Look up stuff. Find out for yourself. Stop saying, oh, Donald Trump wants the Central Park 5 to be in prison. Yeah, because they criminals. And He thought they did it. When you think someone did it, you have a right to think they should go to prison, folks. Come on, let's be real. But enough of me talking. Y'all know me and trust me enough to talk. I'm going to give you the facts.
So yes, he was able to complete the act. The others weren't, and they say as much when it happened.
Detective,
it's on the video.
Detective, what about Mateus Reyes saying that he acted alone?
He's a pathological liar. He's a psychopath. Mateus Reyes said that he had proof that he did it by himself. He claimed that he knows something no one else knows, that she had a fanny pack and a Walkman that he took from her. No one else would know that. And we didn't know about it, except for when Michael Armstrong did the reinvestigation of the case. He found in court records notes taken by a detective from...
I just gotta say this. This kid was 17. Had done raped his mother, raped a pregnant girl in front of her kids and killed her. This kid at 17 was already sick, and that's crazy.
Korey Wise. Korey Wise in 1989, on April 20th, said that when he was attacking the jogger, there was another guy named Rudy that while he was raping her, took her Walkman and took her fanny pack. This is documents that were made in 1989 that were provided to the court. So in 1989, Korey Wise knew about the Walkman and knew about the fanny pack, and Reyes claims no one else knows it but him.
Detective, also Linda Fairstein in her op-ed piece for the Wall Street Journal said that there were blood stains and dirt on the clothing of some of the five, also semen on the shirt of one of the other five.
That's correct. It was pubic hair.
So as you can hear, there was dirt, there were blood stains, there was semen on the Central Park Five. You know what I'm saying? Stop believing the social media. And as the black cop, it's going to say there's pubic hairs, there's everything, bruh. Stop thinking, oh, Trump wanted them to go to jail because Trump knew a lot of this information. Listen.
Detective, also Linda Fairstein in her op-ed piece for the Wall Street Journal said that there were blood stains and dirt on the clothing of some of the five, also semen on the shirt of one of the other five.
That's correct. It was pubic hair, there was blood, there was semen, there was grass. The idea that there was no physical evidence on the five is a lie. It was a lie perpetrated by Ken Burns and by Sarah Burns. There's also medical evidence which conclusively shows that she was attacked by more than one person. And the doctor who...
So, there's medical evidence that shows she was attacked by more than one person. There was other evidence against these five guys. So, let's stop with Trump wanted them to go. And if you listen to Trump, he just said, if these guys did it, if they did it, I want them to go to prison. He wasn't sure.
Treated her, who was interviewed by Sarah Burns, Dr. Robert Kurtz, gave her almost an entire day interview, provided her with the medical records, and at the end of the day, she would not include his interview in her documentary. And when she was asked about it by a reporter, she said specifically, I know Dr. Kurtz believes what he saw and that, that she was attacked by more than one person, but I don't believe it, so I left it out.
Wow. So this is one of the producers of the podcast, of the movies and documentaries, and what he said is she interviewed the victim all day, had the medical records. That's the victim. You can find her tell her story on YouTube. I can show you that too. But what she said is...
One night after work, I had gotten home from work, a bit after 8 o'clock at night, and I had to go running, and I would, go in Central Park, and sometimes I would go with other people, but a lot of times I just went on my own, and I went on my own, and that night was a horrible night in Central Park. There were almost 40 teenagers who were roaming the park and beating people up, and I ended up being attacked and beaten bound, gagged, and raped. And from the beating, I suffered a traumatic brain injury. And I have no memory of it because of the brain injury. I'd say almost 100% of people who have a severe brain injury have no memory of the actual event, and depending on, where they're hit and how they're hit, the extent of the amnesia before it, varies, and then also afterwards. So I have no memory for, about 5 o'clock from that evening till about 6 weeks later.
But she's on YouTube. You can find her. Her name is Trish Millie, and what she says is that she doesn't remember anything from the incident until a few weeks after the incident. She doesn't have memory.
Okay, this is a fact. This is something that she said to a reporter. It's out there. All people have to do is just look for it.
And Detective, in the case of Linda Fairstein, back to her op-ed piece, she says that these boys, were not charged with rape. They were charged with acting in concert, and the jury was informed that she was attacked by several people, and that the people that attacked her and raped her got away.
That's correct.
Mm-hmm.
When Elizabeth Lederer gave her her summation, and when we tested the DNA, and by the way, all of their lawyers fought against them.
That's another thing, people, Donald Trump wanted them to go to jail for rape. Just the lead investigator, saying they never were charged with rape. That's another misconception the main media fed to you. They never were charged with rape. You just heard them say it.
She was attacked by several people, and that the people that attacked her and raped her got away.
That's correct.
Mm-hmm.
This is something that she said to a reporter. It's out there. All people have to do is just look for it.
And Detective, in the case of Linda Fairstein, back to her op-ed piece, she says that these boys, were not charged with rape. They were charged with acting in concert, and the jury was informed that she was attacked by several people, and that the people that attacked her and raped her got away.
That's correct.
Mm-hmm.
When Elizabeth Lederer gave her her summation, and when we tested the DNA, and by the way, all of their lawyers fought against us testing the DNA, which was in its infancy at the time, it came back to someone who was not apprehended, which is not uncommon. You had a gang rape, you don't get everybody. I saw 30 kids there, at least. A large number of them got away. We did not get everybody. We knew we didn't get everybody. Elizabeth Lederer told the jury, told the judge, the defense, the public, that we have DNA from an unknown suspect. Somebody that participated in this rape got away. And when the jury, which was very diverse, which had blacks, whites, gays, we had somebody who was with the NAACP, we had somebody who was, I believe he was a minister or a priest or something, they listened to the evidence. They convicted them on the evidence. They looked at the videotapes several times, more than once. They looked for the coercion. They looked for the sleep deprivation. They looked for all the lies that were thrown, that's being thrown at people right now, and they did not see it. And that's why they convicted them.
So the confessions were not coerced. You can actually watch them on YouTube. The boys were not denied access to food, to water, to their parents, to bathroom facilities. They were convicted of evidence beyond just the confessions. They were convicted of acting in concert. Apart from that, Burns and Duvernay nailed it. I think they think all confessions are sort of like this one.
Now you charge me with this, and I'll beat it. Okay? Let's get back to that truck.
Finally, Donald Trump, who also believes the Central Park Five were guilty, was asked whether or not he has changed his mind. Here's what he said.
There are people on both sides of that. They admitted their guilt. If you look at Linda Fairstein and if you look at some of the prosecutors, they think that the city should never have settled that case. So we'll leave it at that.
Did you really think Donald Trump was going to change his mind? I'm Larry Elder, and this has been the Larry Elder Show for Epic Times.
So, as you can see, that was the story behind the Central Park Five. These dudes were guilty. Don't fall for the main media hype. The evidence is there. I gave you the places to look for the evidence. You can go back and watch over the video. You don't have to believe me. You can Google. And please, let's stop saying, oh, Trump racist. He wanted them to go to jail. If you're going back then and look at what Trump said, if these guys are guilty, if these guys did this, if these guys, he never said they did it. He said if. And from what we just seen and the evidence that's out there, they were guilty and they never were charged with rape. Like I always say, man, thanks for watching. If you're a supporter of the channel, much love and respect. And I salute you. And much love goes out to you and you and you and you. And if you're one of them haters out there, cut the shit.